be fair, a lot this game, the way it's done up, and like for the average, person who's I don't know, younger than 30 has never played this game probably,
Yeah. New to me, I
so.
guess, is what they're saying.
Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel, where a podcast about video games, anime, movies, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host, as always, Joe, and with me, the gentleman who decided to take the turducken up a notch and has added things like a quail and decided to put that into a pig, into a cow, and then just deep fry the whole thing, just like a normal Texan would. Nick, how you doing, Nick?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, you know, me and John Madden had a rivalry. Um, and he, I mean, he was a scoundrel. He just would just try to cheat all the time and stole a lot of my ideas. And yeah, so I just had to one up him a lot. And eventually, the warrants got to be too many, and I had to leave and come to Texas. And that's where I invented the
I thought I was just a Nick's Thursday night dinner. I thought that's what it was called, but
that's when I invented uh, the pig rap possum. It's a pig with a raccoon and a possum stuffed into it. And yeah, so that
roadkill salad there. Okay.
we'd stay away from the skunk, but otherwise, it's yeah, it's
With a layer of
you
beer
know it
cheese wrapped around each one.
yeah. So all those things are that's kind of how it goes. The pig rap possum,
Man,
the
your
pig
life in
rasum.
Arkansas was pretty rough beforehand. Uh,
Have you seen that meme going around of it's a picture of a raccoon, a possum, and a skunk out by some trash cans, and somebody's taking a picture of it, and the subtitle is, "These are your choice of starter Pokemon in Tennessee." That's pretty
no,
good.
I haven't seen that, but that's pretty great.
You should
Uh,
you should find that. Um, yeah. Anyway, um, I'm doing
well,
pretty
you're
good.
alive, so therefore you win versus Madden. Okay, good job.
Well, you know, uh,
He had like 40 years ahead of you, but still.
yeah, he, that hard, dirty living caught up with him finally. Um, people think that people think that he died, but he didn't. He just went back to Venezuela. Um, yeah, but in other news, I just prior to this podcast, I've been trying to play a little bit of a Stellar Blade again because of the DLC. So I downloaded or I bought that, and apparently I don't want to get too much into it, but apparently you have to go find places where Emil from Near, where he is, and that's where the DLC will happen. And so I was like, okay, well, so I'm pretty early on in the game, so I don't feel so bad about starting it over. But anyway, so I bought the DLC. Then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try this photo mode that they've been talking about. And so I spent like an hour just playing around with with the photo mode, and I made some pretty good shots. I'll send them to you later. But at first I was just like, this is all right. This seems kind of tough. And then I kind of got the hang of it, and I was like, hang on a minute. There's so many good places in that game, and a lot of games nowadays, but in that game, there's so much city architecture and kind of lights on the sides of things, and weird glancing sunlight and stuff like that. That you can actually do quite a bit of quite a few good pictures. I mean, it's kind of old news, I guess, because PlayStation 5 has been able to do that for a while, but never actually gotten into one very much, because I'm usually just like I just want to play the game. But for this one, I did a little bit, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I'm definitely gonna be playing with photo mode in other games as time goes on. I think, but yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I remember
go ahead.
Horizon having a really good photo mode
There's
back
Horizon.
on, back on the PS4. And that one was, it was funny because you'd get her to pose like, kind of like for beach shots. So here I am, I climbed a building, and she's standing on a ledge, and then here she is like laying down on her stomach, like knees bent, feet in the air, like acting silly, or like like lounging backwards, or just doing a bunch of just different gestures. I'm like, wow, this is really crazy what you can get away with. And then of course they let you change time of day and all that. So things have come a long way. And I remember doing some fun stuff with. I think whenever I beat a Spider-Man, the Marvel Spider-Man game, I ended up like I just do the like climb to the top of the Empire State Building and do a pose or two and try to get some change of like the bokeh depth of field and stuff like that. And I know with the Stellar Blade, one of the shots they showed, and I'm like, oh, that shot must have sucked to get to, which was on the way to the orbital elevator when you have those like six turrets or whatever just firing at you nonstop. And it was in the trailer where she's posing like doing some piece, like facial cutesy facial gesture, and then you see the lasers in the background kind of blurred out. I'm like, I know exactly where you are, and that would have sucked. You turn around with just quick slam the photo mode and like freeze the game and just like, okay, now pose everything nicely, because the moment you're out of that photo mode, you're
You're
bombed.
dead. Yeah.
I actually
But
like, yeah, that was one of the only times in the game I was super upset because I'm like, this is, it feels broken.
yeah, yeah, that stuff. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I really kind of wish I had tried more in some of the other games. There's another game that I played with a little bit that I'll talk about later, but yeah, it's super fun. Anyway, um,
You can cheat in some
I,
games with photo mode. Just FYI, slam the photo mode and then maybe move the camera around the corner if you want to. I mean that, it's
mm,
like that kind of helps out a little bit, or maybe a little higher than you need to. And be like, oh, that's where things are laid out. Just food for thought.
I mean, it wouldn't be crazy to make photo mode like a new game plus thing where it's like, hey, you want to play with the photo mode, you gotta go through the game. But that's also kind of silly. But yeah, if people are gonna cheat, I mean, I don't know. It's just a video game, so like, who really cares? But I don't know. It's up to the developer. Anyway, how are you, Joe? Anything cool going on in your life?
Oh man, yeah,
Just living?
yeah, drinking. There was a one of the local parks last weekend had a beer fest thing with like lights and stuff like that, and got to try a bunch of different beers. And then just randomly met some people just out in this park, and we're like, yeah, and we all ran out for Mexican food afterwards.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, just making random
drenches.
friends. It was pretty good. And then got we got that old holiday Turkey Day coming up, and so just planning with things with family, friends, trying to get things organized. Plus more birthdays. Oh, this time of year is just packed full of birthdays for my group. So
Yeah,
yeah, lots of cooking, lots of food in my near future. I'll cook, that way I don't have to talk to people.
yeah. The
That's my life
year,
pro tip.
yeah, the year is coming to a close, and which means um
Oh,
that
I was gonna let you. You were doing such a beautiful job transitioning. I was gonna let you take it away.
game of the year is upon us. Jeff Keighley has made the requisite threats, um, and garnered approvals that he needed, and so now we have game of the year nominations that have come out for the Game Awards.
In
And
past
Yeah,
years, we've read the whole darn list. This time, we're like, nah, we're grabbing like six of them, and we're just gonna talk about that. So
yeah,
yeah, we figured keep it a little shorter, and more to what we're interested in, because I we don't neither of us really care about content creator of the year. Um, we're old.
yeah, yeah.
um,
Why
yeah,
aren't
so
we on the list?
oh,
Why
I
aren't
know
we
why we're not on the
nominated?
list. But All right.
Um,
Um, did you want to start or end with the game of the year
I
nomination?
think we could start with game of the year because we didn't. Well, maybe you did. I didn't play any of these games. Um, I guess I'll just read the nominations for game of the year: Astrobot, Balal,
Balatro.
Bala, B- Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor Ray Fantasio. Um, I guess the main thing here is the controversy around a DLC being nominated for Game of the Year. Um, I because like this DLC is like 40 hours long though, right? It's a long, it's short compared to an actual compared to Elden Ring, but for a DLC, it's pretty huge, right?
Yes. Though, all right. So just to play the counterpoint, but you also have you can't just unlock it straight from the main menu. You actually have to get really far into the game. The easiest way to get to the said area where you can unlock it is if you were to follow the storyline of the guy you meet right after you start the game. I can't remember his name now, but if you finish his story quest, he lets you like teleport to that area eventually, but you have to finish that story quest. So there's a very minimum. If you do that line, you still have to play the game for a little bit. You just can't start it. And then worst case, if you missed his quest line or if you killed him or anything like that, you would then really have to go into the depths of the game to get to the proper area to unlock the DLC. So it's not just a simple feat, and it's not just a standalone. It's literally based, like building off the current game. Um, so I can see that being the argument, but it is a mighty big DLC, so it's not, and its quality's pretty solid. But a lot of people, I mean, unfortunately, I didn't touch it, and I find it I can see why people would be upset. Um, but also uh, previous game of the year winner. So that's the other thing is like, well, it already won. It's already like it had its time
Yeah,
and it's shined. Should it be there? Like, well, new stuff has come out. Um, so I don't
yeah.
know.
It it
It's
it. I get all that. I think that I think that it will probably be. I don't know. This is a really good year to have this come out because uh, I know I just said I didn't play any of these games, but I feel like this is not a super strong year. People are talking about how great Metaphor is, and it looked pretty cool whenever I saw it, but it didn't make me want to like drop everything and go play it. And also, it doesn't have the same level of clout as like Baldur's Gate 3 did. So I think that if there's a if there's a year to for a DLC to win, it might be this year. I mean, FF7 Rebirth, it's really pretty. People say it's really good and stuff like that, but I don't know. It's also like a sequel, so I just feel like it's like that one might be kind of treated like Tears of the Kingdom, where it's like, well, this is the same. It's basically like, I mean, it is like the same game, just with another game stacked on top of it. Um, so I can kind of see that. Like, I know people talked a lot about Astrobot being really great. Uh, Abalatro, I don't even know what that is. Um,
so I actually think Balatro is going to win this one. I really
okay,
do. It's
Balatro.
so it, yeah, it's uh, the most reductive, worst way I can explain this in like a sentence is, it's like a wicked game of solitaire. Uh, it's so it plays with the card. It's a card game. It really messes with the genre. It does a lot of neat things and it changes it up a lot. I'm pretty sure I got my copy from Epic Games. For it was like free at one point. So that's the only reason why I even know about it. Like for the most part. But then they recently came out with a bunch of new skins or card decks. They also made it available on mobile a few months back. And so I think because of how widespread this game is, I think that's probably one of the reasons. Like, it's a great game, it's super addicting, but I think that's going to be what makes kind of clinches it as a potential game of the year. Just as far as like Astrobot, Astrobot is a really good runner up in my opinion. But only for those who have a PS5, right? If you don't have a PS5, a lot of people missed out on it. So a lot of people are going to then vote for, put their votes for like Black Myth Wukong or something like that. Um, yeah, so it's kind of, it's kind of hard to nominate a game that
Do
you haven't.
do we know how like who gets to vote? It because there is like a it's
There's a popular, there's, I think there's, in the past, there was like a set of like core people, like, or like people in the industry kind of deal, they get to vote. But then also I think there's a popular vote as
there's a
well or something.
fan
Yeah,
vote that is like one vote, you know, in amongst their chosen panel.
an
I
electoral
think.
college vote or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm not 100% sure the breakdown of it, but I remember them
not sure.
mentioning in the past. It's just the I mean, I know Final Fantasy is going to get a lot of play because that also hit PC. So that's, pretty popular. I personally just could not care at all. Um, and Metaphor Fantasio, like, that's the most interesting like new IP for a long while, in my opinion. Um, Unfortunately, I think it came too late, and still a very niche genre. I'm like, yeah, people are like, yeah, it's
It's a
Persona
JRPG,
esque,
right?
but it's not Persona. It's it's
No.
more, it's because people don't understand how weird Shimigami is, but it is the most approachable Shimigami game outside of Persona that there has been in a long time. Um, so
Okay.
it's like, I my personal top three would probably be like, like Balatro, Astrobot, and Black Myth. Arguably, hard to tell which one I would think would take second. Um, uh, but I don't know. There's a lot of people who like Elden Ring. There's a lot of people who like Final Fantasy.
The fervor for Elden Ring is strong.
Yeah, but I know so many fans of Elden Ring that dropped off like on the DLC, or they got really angry because their build was moot because of the end. Like, and then the
Oh,
game wants you to play it a certain way, and they're like, they just gave up or stopped. And so I was just like, yeah, that's really sad. It's like it just kind of didn't hit the same way as the first one did. Um, Unfortunately, yeah, Metaphor's on there. I'm glad it got nominated. I don't think there's no way it's gonna win. Um, so I guess, like I said, I think Balatro is it's just one of those, once you play it, you'll understand it kind of games, and it's just like, when you see it's like, oh, it's a simple card game. It's, but it's a very much a one more game.
yeah. This
And
might be a year where the I keep wanting to call them the Academy, but the, the nominators make a statement because, like, I think every once in a while there's like a year where it's like for like Academy Awards, like all these movies kind of suck. There's nothing in this pack that's like definitely better than anything else. So we're gonna pick the movie that is the most different of the nominated ones, or like the plucky one that you wouldn't like, the ironic winner. And so yeah, Astrobot or Balatro seems like the dark horse candidates that would win. Um, just from my kind of looking at this from kind of the outside, but anyway,
yeah, because looking at the history of, stuff, there's never been a kind of like a. I mean, well, technically, It Takes Two was like the indie darling that won. Back in, was it 21? So there has been, like, uh precedent of a smaller game winning, because, other than that, it's always been these bombastic things like Baldur's Gate. I mean, The Last of Us Part Two, Sekiro. I mean, so you From's already been on the stage multiple times,
yeah.
you know. So it's just like, I mean, you had like The Witcher and Dragon Age, so it's kind of like all these big AAA games, and then It Takes Two was like the indie darling that won. So
Yeah, and I
I don't
don't
know.
know why that
Kind of
game won. Oh
that game
man.
was not. That game should have ended way sooner. I adamantly hate that game, only because I had to play it for as long as I did. Um, the only reason why it makes it the game okay is just because when you start yelling with your friend about how bad the game is, um, and then you start like my buddy and I were role playing like because I was defaulted as the guy, so I'm like, okay, so everything I came at him was with from a husband's point of view, and then he got to be like the wife, and we just like, no, this is why it doesn't work out for us because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And like it made the game more enjoyable, but it was just like, no, no, please just end. And like the game got like the stages later on got bigger and like more intricate. We're like, cool. Why could you not have done that in the beginning?
Mm.
And why did I like? And then now at this point, it's like, and now we're unlocking this next part of the stage. We're like, for the love of anything, we've been playing this game for like, just end it. Stop dragging this on. Yeah. So it was. Um,
Just can't help it.
it's not a. Yeah, like I said, I think people just like their games a little too much. Um, I still think they're the crime one, the second game. I can't remember uh the height or when the two guys breaking out of jail. I can't not remember the name of it.
What is it
Um,
called? Two something?
um, yeah, sure. Tale of Two Sons was the first one. Whatever the not a way out, is it?
It is a way out, isn't it?
Uh, Yeah, yeah. So that one was probably the best just because it didn't get too long. It kind of did what it needed to do. And yeah, like I said, It Takes Two was just so meh.
Yeah.
All right. Enough of me complaining about that game. So back to
Next
the awards.
next category, best art direction, Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Metaphor, Arte Fantasio, and Neva. So the only ones, Balat, Balatro and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth are not on this list, but Neva is. Um, I I'm thinking that this is a place where like Astrobot could definitely win, because it's a really pretty game. But like Astrobot or Black Myth Wukong would probably be my strong ones here. Neva is it looks good. I like the way it looks and stuff like that, but I don't know if it looks good enough to overtake these other ones.
All
Um,
right. Before I'm sorry, I forgot to ask, what was your pick for game of the year?
I mean, who
Out
do
of
I
all the games you didn't play.
who do I want to win, or who do I think is going to win?
Sure. Both. Yeah, give me what you want, like,
I
and
think I
what you
want
expect.
I think I want Metaphor to win. I think that I think that Astrobot or Balatro are strong. I don't think that Final Fantasy VII or Metaphor have a chance. I think that I don't. I think that Black Myth Wukong is sort of in the zone where it's like there's not there's not enough there's not enough fan fervor to push it, and there's not enough like like, oh, this is not ironic that we picked this game to push it. So I think that one's like fourth most likely to win. I have a I think if I had to put money, if I had to put $10 on this, I would say Shadow of the Erdtree is going to win. But that's just pure pessimism on my part.
You think that Keely's just playing favorites now? He's trying to get in bed with like certain people.
I think I think that there's a lot of yeah, yes,
You
exactly.
think he would sell his integrity for? Yeah, I do too. But okay, 100%.
We
Okay.
have to stop talking about
Uh,
Jeff Keighley, or else I want to make that joke that I made before the cast. I don't want to do that.
Mind you, I led you into that joke. Yeah, but okay. Uh, let's see. All
uh,
right. So for me, art direction, best art direction. Uh, yeah, I think this is. I think Neva is just like a low hanging fruit. Like, yeah, it's pretty.
We
It looks.
should
It's meant to
it's
be
a
pretty,
we
but
should nominate this game.
yeah, for sure. And I feel like Metaphor doesn't do anything from what I've seen outside of your standard current Persona game, right?
Mhm.
It's still they all always look good, and their menus and everything, the way layouts are phenomenal. But at the same time, I don't think it does anything crazy out of the ordinary. I'm hoping and putting my backing behind Astrobot because it's colorful, it's bright, vibrant, has a really good style and aesthetic. So I'm hoping for that because I feel what I'd want second runner up would be Black Myth, I guess, is
Yeah.
what I'd be looking at realistically. A lot of new characters, designs, like so it makes sense. The art direction would be pretty solid, but at the same time, it feels to me that it's more of like um a little bit nicer version of like Elden Ring, and like at this point, Elden Ring does look good, but I said it last year too. It's still like a muddy, drabby look
Well,
to me.
it's
So
not a
I just
true quote true PS5 game. I mean, it was a PS4, PS5 game, so it's gonna it. I'll talk about this more later, but it's sort of before they really turned the corner on the ray tracing and really everything, because it had to be able to perform on the older system. So I feel like I feel like Black Myth Wukong would be my guess for what's going to win here, because the gameplay people have said is good, but the look of the game is like as good is as good as the gameplay, saying, "Hey, it looks so good." Whereas Astrobot looks very good. It might even look as good as Black Myth Wukong, but but the narrative around that is that the gameplay is so great. So I'm just I'm just kind of guessing that the way it's going to be perceived is that Black Myth's art direction is going to be what is kind of carrying it, and so it'll get picked. But I don't know for sure.
I mean, honestly, it'd be nice if it did because it's kind of a new studio, deal, and I'd be happy for
Yeah,
someone like that to come home with a win. Uh,
that would be the
all right,
gift
so
that I think they would give to a new studio. Like a new studio is not they're not going to let them win Game of the Year, but they would be like, but best art direction. Like we're going to give that to you to recognize the great work that you did. Blah 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 blah. Blah, but we're not. Hey rookie, you're not ready for the big time. We've got to have something to work for, or something like that.
yeah. All right. So this next one is the category I wanted to talk about. Best action adventure game, or action slash adventure. So, which is different from the best action game. So this one has Astrobot up on here as well. They have Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, Silent Hill 2, uh, Star Wars Outlaws, and The Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom. The last two, I'm kind of confused
I
personally.
think they're just on here
Um,
for the name.
yeah, especially Star Wars. Star Wars had such a bad like rollout. I'm like, you are kidding, right? Like, no one really was happy about it for a lot of different reasons. Um, you're on here because you're Star Wars, and you're getting paid to be on here, or like someone's pulling favors. Um, I that's just the cynic in me, and I'm like, I strongly like feel it does not deserve a spot at all. Um, I feel like I argue this a lot. Like you need a Nintendo property somewhere on the high lists or something, and like it's the only thing they really got because it was a weak year for Nintendo as a whole. Um, so yeah, I think it's going to be out of this. I want it to be Prince of Persia so
I
bad.
know you do.
Because all right, so we were talking about this beforehand too, but Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I played this game earlier in the year. It came out like I forget now in the spring or something like that. But anyways, maybe even came out January. It came out really early in the year. So it was a Metroidvania style game. Uh, looked good, uh, played way better than it had any right to be. It was very much a hard game. It was like it was actually combat difficult, and it had that Dark Souls esque like brutality. Like we are going to make sure you get good at this game. Um, and I think that's going to turn a lot of people off because I feel like it might have been too hard for a casual person, especially when you're something like you like the old Castlevania games. And there's so many good Metroidvania style games that aren't as difficult. And I felt like this one was kind of brutal, but I kind of really liked it and I appreciated it for it. They also Ubisoft said they did, because of sales numbers and stuff like that, they disbanded the team that made it, which was a tragedy. So there's no way that this is going to walk home with a win, especially when there's no one really there to take the award. Um,
Yeah,
so I mean, I think it's just there as a nod to we acknowledge it was a good thing, but I think this one's probably going to go to either Astrobot or Silent Hill 2.
that's my guess. I
And
think this is one where Astrobot is probably going to win. I feel like it was just people just freaking loved that game, and Silent Hill 2, people were like, it's really good, but it was like a 4 stars out of 5, 4.5 stars out of 5. Whereas Astrobot, I was seeing just like, I was floored by the reviews I was seeing. I was just like, what in the world? This is like getting 5 star reviews. I was just kind of like, whoa. Who would have thought
yeah,
that?
anyone who hadn't played the VR Astrobots Rescue Mission, like
Mm.
that that is the peak of like one of the easiest recommendations for PSVR 1 game to play for anyone. Be like, here, check this out. Um, so it's not a big surprise that Astrobot came out. It was so good, and yeah, I honestly, yeah, I back you on that one. I think Astrobot's going to win.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's kind of it. It was just I specifically wanted to talk about Prince of Persia and how unfortunately it didn't get the love it needed throughout the year. And you know, it's sad to see that team go, but man, they made a really good game. And if you really want a solid Metroidvania with a really good combat system that is difficult, or if you like a good challenge mode for like obstacle courses and to try to do like chaining a bunch of stuff, it's just like that one had one of the best or slash difficult challenge modes. So if you like something like a Super Meat Boy, or like a Celeste, where you have to do like that kind of jumping and stuff, like they had really good mechanics where you had to go through different mazes for these challenges to jump between spikes, jump dash, double jumps, wall climb, hold on, drop just enough to then dash over, like just a crazy amount of stuff. And your brain could figure it out, but then you're trying to work your body and your fingers to catch up to what you're thinking. And then when you finally clear the next spot, then you die, but you're like, oh, that's the next thing I got to do. And when you do succeed, you're like, it's like super awesome. You're like, you're really thrilled with yourself. And then you're like, oh wait, I still have like a dozen more of these things to do. And you're like, man, if I only had the time, I could just dedicate to this and the patience so I don't snap my controller in half.
Mm.
But like I said, I never expected that game to be that good. And I feel like they did a really bad job marketing the game. So it was one of my pleasant surprises throughout the year. All right. And then the next category I picked was the best VR slash AR game. All right, we got here Arizona Sunshine remake. We have uh, let's see, Asgard's Wrath 2, uh, Batman Arkham Shadows, Metal Hellsinger VR, and Metro Awakening. Um, I find it weird that Arizona Sunshine is remake is on there because this is fairly recent, within the last like month,
Mm.
and I, I mean, it's a good remake. I'm glad they came out with it, and it was only $10 upgrade if you own the previous. But I feel like this is like the one handout, right? Like the one that doesn't belong. Um,
Yeah.
Now a couple of these games aren't on PSVR, so both I think Asgard's Wrath currently not on there, and I know Batman for sure isn't. That's a MetaQuest currently exclusive. I feel like Batman's going to win for all the hype I've heard about it. I don't want it to win. I want Metro to win like nobody's business.
Yeah.
But I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to be Batman, just because of all the hype behind it. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on that. But I'm a huge Metro fan, and I think they did a really good job on that. So, uh, yeah, I
Well,
mean, Metal
that's
Hellsinger was a cool surprise, but I still think Metro. Yeah,
yeah,
personally, I want
that sounds accurate. I think Batman will probably win, but hopefully Metro Awakening will come in second, or maybe we'll be able to pull it out. It just depends. But yeah, I mean, with a name like that, and it's kind of the word of mouth that's going around about it, it's probably going to pull Batman through.
it. Yeah, for sure. All right. So then you got here best indie game. So yeah, list those off.
Yeah, Animal Well, Pilatro, Lorelei or Lorelei, Lorelei, and the
I don't
Laser
know.
Eyes. What?
I haven't even heard that one. Yeah.
Uh, anyway, Lorelei, I think would be the name that I've heard before. But anyway, and the Laser Eyes, and then Neva and UFO 50. So I have Neva on my list to play, so I will be playing that at some point in the future. Animal Well is one of the few games that I have actually played this year. Um, I think if I had to guess, um, I mean, if Balatro is that good, then it will probably win here. But like if it's already being nominated for Game of the Year, then it stands to reason that it would win. If it, I mean, that stands to reason that it should win this one. So that's kind of the foregone conclusion I see here. But I think Animal Well is probably a pretty strong contender. New studio, YouTuber that people like a lot or don't like, but ended up making a really good game, sort of from scratch, out of nowhere when nobody asked him to, and he didn't have to. Um, and the game is just really good. The other games, I just don't know anything about uh, Lorelei or UFO 50. Um, and I just don't think Neva probably is long enough. I don't think it's. I don't think it's really. I don't know if it's a strong enough contender to be able to win here. But yeah, so that's kind of my. Uh, that's kind of my 2 cents on what's going on here. If I had to guess, I'd say Balatro is probably going to take it.
Yeah, it's one of those like if Balatro wins Game of the Year, then they might pass on it for best indie just to give someone else a fair shot.
How do
Because
you
you
make
don't
that work?
like it. Yeah, I know, right? For sure. And then but vice versa. If it doesn't win Game of the Year, then they can just give this handout, being like, here you go. You may not be the best game, but you're the best indie. Um,
Yeah,
I think Animal Well is a very good contender. But yeah, I think Balatro just it's more mainstream. It's more easily accessible by most people. Has the most exposure that way because of that. Um, and it's really handy that way because like UFO 50, I only know about it through other like podcasts. And that's the only reason why I even paid attention to it. Um, you know, Neva looks great, but I never, I wasn't terribly interested in it. And Lorelei the Laser Eyes. Um, cool name, but didn't really know anything about it. So, yeah, I think Balatro, followed by Animal.
yeah,
I would find it funny though if Balatro won and then they did give the best indie to someone else. Um,
yeah. That would be weird. That'd be weird.
for sure.
I mean, I think
All
they'd be
right.
okay with it
Uh,
over at the Balatro Studios. They'd be like, "We took Game of the Year. We're not going to complain about not getting Best Indie as well." That would be the ultimate dark horse candidate. Yeah.
yeah. Right. Okay. What's the last category you got down here?
Best score slash music. Nominees are Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor Ray Fantasio, Silent Hill 2, and Stellar Blade. Um, I don't. I mean, Astrobot I don't know what the music is like in that. I'm sure it's fine. Maybe I'll play it someday and I'll be able to tell you. Um, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I have a hard time with this um, because like there's already been a Final Fantasy VII remake, um, and and it's using music from Final Fantasy VII. I know they do more with it and stuff like that, but the core of it is not new. Um, so to me, that kind of knocks it out a little bit. Kind of the same thing with Silent Hill 2. Um, how much are they really innovating there? Silent Hill 2, the original Silent Hill 2, one of the most amazing soundtracks ever. It's just hauntingly beautiful. Uh, so if there's a reason though for Silent Hill to win it over Final Fantasy VII, it would be to me it would be because there was no Game Awards back when the original Silent Hill 2 came out. So you could kind of be like, we're going to give it to them, you know, for that reason. Um, Metaphor, I don't know. I would like to hear the music. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's good. But Stellar Blade um, has very good music. It is uh, from the Okabe, the same guy that does the music for Nier. He's done music for a lot of things. I forget the name of his studio off the top of my head. But anyway, the music in it is very good. It so I mean, for me personally, the only one that I've really heard a lot of is Stellar Blade. Uh, I think that it's probably good enough to win. I don't know if it actually will though. I this one I can't really get a good read on as to what I think would actually happen.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Uh, I actually I like Stellar Blade's soundtrack quite a bit, but I feel there's not a single track on there that I can like hum or remember clearly off the top of my head.
Yeah,
Like when you're
that's
in
fair.
it, you're like, yeah, this is you're liking it, but it's just it's not it doesn't stick with you the way like Nier did. It's just there's something lacking. I mean, there's not it's not a bad soundtrack. It's quite good, but just there's nothing memorable. And I do agree with you. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is it feels like it's cheating because yes, you're remixing, you're adding, and yes, you are composing new stuff. But like the way the remake did originally, like some of those hidden changes that they did are like homages that they'll reference to the previous songs. Like yes, this is all technically new, but it's based off of something that's already existent and it's already originally a great soundtrack. Um, now, what they should do is just slap everyone in the face and be like, "Yes, Final Fantasy wins for One Wing Angel." Just the thing that everyone knows. That would be kind of just funny as heck. But I don't want Final Fantasy to win because, like I said, I feel like it's not really it's not winning off its own merit. It's building a foundation to something else.
Well,
Kind of like the idea of a DLC winning Best Game of the Year.
well, too, and I wonder if they're going to hold a lot of Game of the Year awards until the third Final Fantasy VII remake comes out, and it's like all done because that's kind of what they did again with the Academy Awards with the Lord of the Rings Return of the King. It won the little awards. It won the little, things that people kind of like or whatever. But whenever the Return of the King came out, it was like, okay, it's all complete, it's all done, and now we can give like a ton of awards to this, basically a ton of awards in 1 year for all three movies. That's what that essentially was doing. So I wonder if after Final Fantasy VII Remake 3 comes out, um, if that will be kind of the big parade that they have for it at that time. Anyway, that's just me wondering.
Yeah, I mean, I, but based off what I just said about Final Fantasy 7, uh, kind of similar to Silent Hill 2.
Yeah.
So it's just like by that, you know, like unless if they made a whole bunch of new stuff, which clear, like I feel like it's more like still building off of that. So I don't know. I think it'd have to, personally, I think it's probably gonna go to Astrobot. This
Yeah.
might be the one where like Metaphor can get something out of it, but because I mean, I haven't played Metaphor unfortunately, so I can't say. But if it's Persona esque in any way, like the way they produce the soundtrack to that is pretty great. So I can see if it's even like similar, same but different, if they can still get that groove going. I'm like, I can see a lot of people liking it, and it might be the one that the dark horse, like, here we can finally award you with something. um it's hard to say. I think just based off popularity, I'd go slash hope with Astrobot, I suppose.
Hmm.
But my second choice, which I'd be happy with, would be Metaphor. So Refantasio.
Yeah.
But yeah, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I don't
Those
know. I'm kind of in the dark on this one.
Yeah. All right. Well, had to put $10 on. Which one would you pick?
If I had to put $10 on one of them, I would put it on Silent Hill 2, just as
Okay.
a pure like guess that that is what they're going to pick. Not what I would pick, I don't think, but that's what my guess would be.
Okay. So that's cool. All right then. Now, that's all we're going to do for the Game Awards. Unless if some weird stuff happens, we'll come back to it. But hopefully, no one rushes the stage this year. So
Yeah, I hope we can just enjoy talking about it whenever the Game Awards actually happens. It usually happens on like a Sunday night, right? I'm sure they've already announced when it's gonna air, but it's usually like a Sunday night, I think. Um, anyway,
yeah. So I mean, the awards should be entertaining. But at the same, like I said, it's just hopefully it just won't have a lot of other BS.
yeah,
And so I guess the big thing is Death Stranding, another exclusive Death Stranding 2 trailer is my money is going to be on it, because it's like he has to have something with Kojima every year, right?
yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. So we got some other news we still got to talk about. Uh, the next one coming up here looks like, so the idea of Sony trying to purchase uh, Elden Ring from Soft developer by going after their parent company, Kadokawa Games, or Kadokawa in general. So
Mhm.
Kadokawa makes a bunch of different stuff. They do books. I actually
Anime.
really like their manga section. Yeah, so uh, and yeah, they also the parent company too from Soft. And the only real news out there is, hey, they Kadokawa mentioned, yes, we got like an offer, but they hadn't shown any, like, really said anything else. Um, It'd have to be a really big offer because,
Kadokawa
like
is
I said, it's a
huge.
big, yeah, right? And so, I honestly think they're better off not falling under that umbrella, because I'm just afraid to see what other things would shutter, like, with the acquisition from Sony, because Square Enix has their own manga and anime division.
Mhm.
Um, so then, like, trying to merge, I'm like, it's going to be like any of these big company acquisitions where people are going to start losing their jobs because there's going to be overlap, and like, we don't need all these divisions. Um, I mean, between publishing houses and gaming development, like, just leave them alone. Yeah, just uh, but they want their portfolio to be bigger. So hey, if the big enough check happens, we'll see. But then I would be the best outcome from software is, in my opinion, Sony just gives them a blank check and be like, "Hey, you've kind of proven yourself to do really well. We'll let you do a Kojima thing and just kind of run with it, and hopefully the next game you make will pay us back in dividends." Uh, Worst case scenario, they try to stranglehold them, and then FromSoft jump ship, or the people start leaving, and I would not want to see that necessarily. I mean, because even if they did their own startup, made their own indie studio, and everyone left, it still would be very taxing, and it wouldn't be as good because, you know, that means you're gonna have to crowdfund or find different investors, and the game's gonna be everyone's gonna be more stressed. It's
The whole
I
money
just hope
side
that.
would have to start from scratch.
Mhm.
That just it would all have to like all the money stuff would have to start from scratch, and you don't want you don't want the artist to really have to worry about that. You want the artist to focus on the art and let the business people that are already there kind of take care of that. Um, yeah, I feel like this is ultimately a response. Um, I mean, it's probably something that they would have wanted to do anyway, but ultimately it feels like a response to the Microsoft Activision merger. Um, this is like this is a good way for Sony to expand their portfolio to get bigger so that they can keep fighting with Microsoft in the long term. Um, for some reason, I feel better about this happening than I do about Microsoft Activision. I guess because I guess because Kadokawa is sort of the, the in between between like Sony and FromSoft, and I I think that I don't know. It's sort of weird. I think that I think that Sony will mostly leave this stuff alone. Will mostly leave Kadokawa stuff alone. Um, but it does concern me about the FromSoft implications because I feel like they might be trying to get a hold of that. Um, and there's just like, well, Kadokawa is a really good company and they do a lot of great stuff and we could really bolster our stuff. But what we're really trying to do is get FromSoft. So, and if that is the case, then that makes me nervous because if they want to own it, they probably also want to mess with it. Um, and I don't know. It makes me nervous. Um, but I don't think quite as much as I just feel like they're not. I don't know why, but I just feel like they're not going to meddle um, in the companies that they buy as much as Xbox and Microsoft will. Uh, I don't know why I think that, but that is sort of the feeling that I get. Over time, things will change and it will be probably more homogenized or whatever. But in the short term, for maybe the next 10 or 15 years after they buy this, if they end up buying it, then I think it'll be pretty much the same. It's just because I feel like they're not gonna. I feel like they're going to want to leave FromSoft well enough alone because they're just kicking ass. They're just so good at what they're doing. It's like you really think you're going to come in here and fix anything, make anything actually make anything better. Like we're making games that are as good or better than anything that any of your other studios are making. So I don't know. It depends. I'm not super worried about it. I guess if it actually happens, then we'll start hearing news and then I'll probably get more worried. But for now, I think it's I think that's okay. I think I would rather them
Well,
not buy it though. That's my ultimate thing.
I mean, I can see it being it's like a petty move too, where like, well, Sony's like, we got Neo, and that's only Sony, and then we're like, we're gonna get FromSoft, take them away from Xbox. What are they gonna leave them with? Liza P. It's like,
Yeah.
um, I mean, which wasn't a bad game, but like it's a far cry from FromSoft stuff. So uh, yeah. Anyways, there's more. Like I said, it's not just the gaming division that I'm worried about. There's a lot of other stuff, and uh, I really do like Kadokawa stuff. Like I've liked a lot of their manga for a long time, so I'm just really curious. I'd like them. Yeah, I just if they buy them, I should want them to leave them alone. But I'm like, that's not going to happen. There's,
Yeah.
between mergers and acquisitions, so especially nowadays where like the moment you buy, you're like, well, all right, we're not seeing an instant like jump in revenue, so we just gotta start trimming the fat. Um, you know, and it's I don't know. Well, here's here's hoping to a good outcome either way, I suppose.
Yeah.
Whatever that
It,
is.
it's it'll probably be okay in the long run. But yeah, I think if they do it kind of the way that Microsoft has done it with Activision, which I'm trying to think of how many layoffs there's been. I know there's been a ton of layoffs at Microsoft itself. Um, if they can just buy it and leave it alone, uh, and make any changes very, very, very slowly over many years, then I think everybody will more or less be happy. But if they come in and start changing stuff right away, then yeah, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, what else you got for us, Nick?
You brought this to my attention. Steam has new DLC rules for developers. Um, basically, they are. I don't know if I pull up exactly what it all was. So basically, they are saying that they're going to be stricter about DLC announcements and stuff like that. I thought I had a nice setup here. So basically, the developers um, have to submit a complete list of all DLC included in the pass. They have to have a basic description of the content that's in the DLC, and then they have to kind of the big one is that they have to give the expected release date for the DLC, and if they push back, if the developers push back the DLC more than 3 months, then yeah, that's it. Then uh, Steam reserves the right to start handing out refunds. So, like, I think the exact verbiage here was Valve will allow developers to self reschedule the release date one time only by up to 3 months later than you originally selected. Um, and then if it needs longer than that, then they'll have to contact Valve directly to haggle it out. And then, yeah, so the kind of the main thing there is like, hey, they're putting these kind of more reasonable restrictions, consumer focused restrictions to me on developers and giving consumers better, quicker options whenever DLC does not go right. So anyway, I like it. I think it's a good move overall.
Yeah. It's most definitely one of those good guy Steam moments. It's quite a few times people have paid for DLC, the whole, the whole pack and not gotten anything or at least only a part of it. So it's especially when studios unfortunately go under or when they like just weird things happen. We're like, yeah, we promised you like a whole season of stuff and we can't perform on that. Uh, this clarity, I'm wondering if that part of me is like, did the EU do something that we weren't aware of? Because it feels like rumor like, hey, they're gonna sue them over something or they're gonna try to bring something up. So let's just quickly jump ahead of that and just stop this beforehand.
Yeah, they don't want to be like Apple and wait until they're sued for $50 billion before they start making moves. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I mean,
that makes sense. I mean, that is one thing the EU we can be we can hang our hat on for the EU is that they're going to be a little more consumer friendly and consumer protectionist than basically any other body of nations in the world. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
yeah. All right. Yay for Steam, I guess. So hopefully more companies will follow suit with trying to make sure you get more clarity from your DLC coming out.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. What else you got, man?
Um, Next thing, Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake is Japan's best-selling game at around 800,000, a little over 800,000 copies sold so far. It's only been out for like a week or something. Yeah, in 1 week. But they expect it to hit over 1 million. I'm just you told me about this and I looked it up and I was just like, I don't know. Something is just sort of flabbergasting about this to me that a remake of a 2D game, Dragon Quest 3, I guess, one of the best Dragon Quests or whatever, um, selling this much is just it's kind of wild, but it does make sense for Japan. It's like, yeah, it's Japan, kind of in a weird sort of roundabout way. It does kind of make sense. I don't know. I would just think like a new game would sell more, a brand new game that no one had ever seen. But um,
Be fair, a lot this game, the way it's done up, and like for the average, person who's I don't know, younger than 30 has never played this game probably,
yeah,
you know.
new to me, I
So
guess, is what you're
that's
saying.
that's pretty much the way I look at it. Is this is a new game for almost everyone, and being one of the only handful of games that has the HD 2D shift. Um, Out of the eight was it 821,000 copies, um, 641,000 are on the Switch.
Yeah,
The other 180,000 are on the PlayStation platform. So you're looking at a lot of people on the Switch, which makes sense. Originally a Nintendo game, plus just the handheld in general in Japan. So that's really interesting. I think that's a good sign, to be honest. Uh, I'm more interested than I was before because I just like I said, I was trying to think about. I'm like, dude, I haven't played that game since I don't know grade school. So, and it wasn't even my copy; it was a friend's. So, yeah, I barely remember anything about it. And it does look phenomenal. I mean, pretty much everything else from the ground up. Like a lot of new convenience, ease of life things, and you have the auto battle system. You have, you can kind of semi pre-program your guys to, pick default attack moves or control sets. So you can set the healer to heal and stuff like that. So like that's neat. And yeah, I'm very curious. I just don't have time for RPGs like that, like I used to. That's for sure. Um,
yeah. Because what
it's
is
more,
this
it's
like a freaking 70-hour minimum
I
to
don't think it's that bad, but I
beat
think
the
like
main
well,
game?
plus yeah, but at the same time, it's just like one of those like, yeah, I'll probably buy it just so I can have it on my shelf because that's like a physical copy. Because I have like it's a Toriyama, like the art was always amazing, um, and it's just it was a stellar game, and a lot of people still don't actually realize why the third game's coming out before the 1 and 2 set is. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah, that
Uh,
was I was gonna say, was that this game where they're like, you need to play the third game first and then go back and play 1 and 2? And I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care. That doesn't make any sense. Like, whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I know
they
there's
they've made
reasons,
this
but
they've remade this game before. They did a Game Boy port if I remember correctly, and they like they brought it to multiple handhelds, and I think that originally it was brought to the Super Nintendo as the first remake, and so they brought some of those Super Nintendo features like it's kind of anyone who's put like if you look at games like this and you're like, oh, this is where Pokemon like kind of gets the like art style from, or the animations for the enemies, the combat, how you see the enemy in a distance and how they move, and you're like, all right, you can see the homage that Pokemon, or like because of games like this, Pokemon became the way it was for the combat,
yeah.
uh, and the music was always really good, and I mean, yeah, I'm really happy that this game is selling well. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna play it, but I will probably buy
You
it.
don't have a spare
I'll just leave it sealed.
93 hours to do the main game plus extras?
Yeah, dude, I
Oh
can't
no.
even watch. I won't even watch a let's play without it being like 4 times speed or something.
Dude, yeah. I mean, the grinding, the level of grinding that you had to do in these old games. Anyway, yeah. So there's that.
All right. And the last bit of news we you got for us today, man.
No, you got this one.
Okay, sure.
I don't really know too much about what's going on here.
Well, it's just simple. Simple. The fact that Remedy's Sam Lake is to receive uh, a Legend Award from the New York Video Game Critics. So I'm like, these New York video game critics. I don't know much about them, but I'm very glad that Sam Lake is getting an achievement
But
award.
they like
It's
Sam
like the
Lake.
yeah. I mean, good on them. They need more publicity. They need more money to go in. The fame to help go into it. Their new to control, because unfortunately, Alan Wake has as critically acclaimed as like wasn't the most gangbuster selling game, which is a shame. I mean, like it sold a bit, but apparently it wasn't turning the profits like they hoping.
I think they said
Uh,
it broke even,
so
which
took
is
them a while.
is is not what you want to hear, but it's definitely better than it not breaking even. Even or selling less than that, being in the red. Um, I think that I think that if it's going to break even, if it's broken even at this point, then it'll be it's going to continue to sell a little bit, and I think it'll be Alan Wake 2 is going to be one of those games that is going to continue to pop up on YouTube in various forms, video game essays, all that stuff, for probably the next 10 to 20 years. It's just going to keep popping up because it's a really beautiful game, and it's really interesting and very different than a lot of other stuff that you see. So yeah, I think that it makes sense for uh, video game critics all over the place, New York and otherwise, to want to recognize Sam Lake because the games that they're making over there are they have a different vibe to them, and they don't feel like you're just playing the same old shooter, same old action game, like sword swinging game. It's it's unique and surprising, and the that's a big reason why a lot of game aficionados play is for that.
Yeah, it's I know Alan Wake 1 came out, and it was one of those games that it sold more as it got older than it did initially. Um and Controlled probably their biggest like breakout success outside of like Max Payne. But Max Payne was just pure simple, action game. Uh yeah, I mean, you can kind of see why they're doing, they're making that multiplayer shooter. And I'm like, I'm the Foundry. No, I'm sorry. What, I can't remember the name of the game right now off the top of my head.
Fire
Uh,
Break,
Fire Break. Yeah. So
something Team Fire
uh,
Break.
I'm hoping, like I said, I hope it makes them money. I'm hoping it doesn't cost them too much. You know, the they're gonna hopefully get some more cash income from the Max Payne remake they're planning on doing with Rockstar. So they're doing what they got to do to help pay the bills.
Keep the lights
And
on. I mean, yeah, it's
yeah,
just vote with your wallet and try to that they don't do annoying stuff. They don't. I think they probably will. Um, with their ongoing games and stuff like that. Probably with Max Payne, probably try to make some money. I wouldn't blame them for that. Um, to try to stay in the black a little bit. Uh, but as long as they can kind of do that and keep it sort of new, sort of unique, and then also um, keep making weird games like Control or Alan Wake, then I'll be happy.
yeah. All right then. Now to what we've been playing. All right. So speaking about interesting stuff, it you decided to play Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. What brought this on?
So I was scrolling through PlayStation Plus free games or whatever, and I saw this game, and I was like, okay, um, I'm gonna go ahead and download it. Back whenever You couldn't get a PlayStation 5 back in 2021. This was one of the games that was out for it, and there weren't a lot of games really out for PS5. Not true, you know, native PS5 games is what I'll call them. This was one of the first, or one of the first big ones, or whatever, semi big. Um, and I always thought it looked pretty. Um, and so I was like, dang, I kind of want to play that. So flash forward to 2024, it's free now, or it's, I'm already paying for it or whatever for extra. So I downloaded it and I decided to play it a little bit. And I was like, I'll throw a little bit of time on this. So I have something to talk about. So I have something to talk about for the cast. Um, and I've only played like 2 or 3 hours or so, 4 hours maybe. And and this game is really good. I had played Ratchet and Clank as a kid, it's probably like a 14 or 15-year old, and I played one of the Ratchet and Clanks. I rented it from the store one night, and I thought it was okay, but I just really wasn't in the mood to really dig into it. Um, and this game feels like the appropriate expansion of that. This old game would have been on the PlayStation 2, I think. Um, this game feels like the appropriate expansion for that, or and it is it feels really good to play. It's very silly, but not in an overly stupid way. Like if I was 8 years old, I would freaking love this game. This game is just, there's so many things going on. All the animations for all the bad guys are really cartoonish, but in like a fun way, not just purely stupid. There's so many particle effects flying around, and everything just looks really good. Just looks, the animation, all of it just looks really shiny and crisp and clean. Um, and then and so like all that is like, okay, so it's a kid's game, and all those things are just really good looking or whatever. But there's a lot of other games that don't look that good, and then the feel of this game is really nice. The shooting is good. There's different, bombs and stuff that you throw, and your hammer swing's pretty cool. And they kind of keep changing it up and giving you different stuff. And there's like little boss fights everywhere. Just kind of as you go. Like you don't have to go very far before you're in a boss fight. It's changing scenery all the time to different biomes and crazy stuff happening. Um, I think there was one pretty good joke in there that was like, it wasn't like an adult, like a dirty joke or anything like that, but it was like a joke that an adult can appreciate. So I was glad for.
They've been filled with innuendo forever. I mean, the titles alone.
Well, I was
I
going to
mean,
bring up the
from
titles, like Up Your Arsenal, Rift Apart.
so it was Going Commando, Up Your Arsenal. Then it was Size Matters
Yeah,
was the next one that I
that one
remember.
that one's
Uh,
too far. That one they
uh,
should have thought about a little
it
bit
was
more.
it was Clank, and it was on the PSP. Okay, so you're playing the little robot. It made perfect sense. Full Frontal Assault.
Yeah, full frontal
Um,
assault. Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
those yeah, they've. I mean, that was one of the things is so I was actually a big fan of these games. I own the original 3 on PlayStation 2, and then I rebought the collection when they came out. They released them on PS3, I think.
mm,
Um, so yeah, it was just one of those games that's like Insomniac games, doing what they do best. And you're looking at them like, yeah, this is just really clever. I mean, granted, they're kind of mini collectathons, but they're fun to explore. The weapons were crazy, always been, and like they had some of the best commercials when the first Ratchet and Clanks came out, like the chicken gun and stuff like that, where it's just or testing out the new weapons on like this guy and his buddy, like essentially videoing themselves with the weapons, and yeah, it was just their humor was always different. I mean, these guys are the guys who made Spyro. Uh,
mm,
while you had was it Sucker Punch making Jack and Daxter, was it?
yeah.
So um and at first, Jack and Daxter 1 and Ratchet and Clank felt like they were pretty much like two sides of the same coin. Not even like even more similar than that. But then as the series went on, Jack went darker, and I think at the time everyone was trying to go darker. I
Yeah,
mean, you got Prince of Persia by the second and
the
third one. By the third one,
the
it's like
mid two
so I was just like
thousands.
I was kind of yeah, and I was the Batman series, everything had to be darker, and like Ratchet and Clank really didn't do that. So I was kind of happy with that. I'm like, yeah, you're just staying kind of true to yourself, but still making solid stuff too. Not so I really did appreciate Ratchet and Clank series, and this one, like I said, the tech, yeah, it really did showcase what the solid state hard drive can do,
Yeah,
and being able to like uh was it the Rift Tether? Being able to use that, and I mean, it's a showcase. Like, hey, you want a great family friend game that you can show in front of anyone in the like literally anyone, and also a solid game. Sure, this is it. Like,
yeah.
you may be able to say, "Hey, Ghost of Tsushima looks beautiful." Now watch me just
Dismember this guy.
decapitate this person in front of my child. You can't really do that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, this game is very much like a hey, look at this grandma game. Look at where games have gone, where it's the lighting and stuff like that is so vibrant. The colors are just fantastic. What they're able to do now with like with OLED TV, like on an OLED TV, it just looks fantastic. It just looks great. Um, so
As someone who has to watch the original Toy Story movie quite often because of children, um, I look at and then you look at a game like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, you're like, "Yep, we've come a long way in tech." I mean, and then part of me is like, "All right, so maybe we should remaster the old Pixar movies." Go down
no,
that dark rabbit hole.
no. and that is and then you went into that's how you go into the mind of a executive at Disney. Maybe we should just redo all of them. Um
I mean, well, it's better than making them live action, that's for sure.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, live action. Anyway, so yeah, we actually just talked. Side note. So I was sitting down to lunch with some dudes, and we were talking about. I don't know why they were talking about the Disney movies, but they were, and they were talking about the remakes or whatever. And one of them was like, blah blah. This movie, the remake was good, but the Lion King live action remake that was not any good. And I was like, yeah, I was like, huh, okay. It's like, and I was trying to think, did they make a live action remake? And then I was like, you mean the CG, the one that's CG? And he was like, yeah, the live, oh yeah, I guess it is all CG. It's not technically live action on the Lion King, but
no, but it is regarded as, like, the worst out of all those, and what they did
I
is they
know.
they're now make I just realized I just saw it literally today. They're making a Mufasa one,
Yeah, I
and I'm
saw
like,
that.
"So you're gonna take the worst one that everyone hates, and you're gonna roll off with that another one in that same type of genre."
It's
I'm
a
like, "That's
flex.
ridiculous."
Well, it was
Um,
funny because it's not live action, it's CG, but because of what they were talking about and it compared to the cartoon one from the 90s felt live action. But when I said that to him, he was like, "Oh, you're right. It's not actually live action." And I was like, "Yeah." Anyway, so that was my funny
way
story.
to way to Disney just to double down on that, man. Oh,
Yeah,
like, I didn't know what I was watching at first. I'm like, "Oh, wait." I just assumed it was, like, a trailer for that Lion King, and then all of a sudden at the end, they're like I'm like, I just wasn't paying attention, then they threw up Mufasa. I'm like, "What?"
I mean,
That is I could
it
just
makes
spoil you.
me
Go to that film and just say, "Hey, hey, kid, let me tell you how this ends."
Yeah, it makes me respect them more for just thumbing their nose in our face. Um, but I'm not gonna watch it, so it is what it is.
Yeah. Uh,
Anyway,
just another tragedy. Alright.
anyway, Ratchet
So,
and Clank Rift Apart. If you haven't played it and you
yay.
have some time, you should go play it. It's just stupid fun. I can recommend it.
Well, yeah, without a doubt. Um, I'm actually looking forward to you starting to go back to the back catalog. I mean, you still got Ghost of Tsushima, man.
I know.
You
I
still got that one,
it
and
it it's every time I open up PlayStation Extra, that little thing, it's like Ghost of Tsushima director's cut right here, just for you, big boy. I know.
That's actually the better version of the one I played because I played it on the PS4 like a slum. So, uh, yeah, no,
What you
totally.
get for being first, I guess.
Yeah, right. But Ratchet and Clank totally worth the time, and uh, despite it looking like a kids game, it's perfectly feasible. Like it's a well worth game playing.
Yeah.
Um, I never need to get the platinum on that, but I probably won't. It's probably a better thing I didn't. But once my kid gets older, we'll go back to that game because it is an
Uh,
easy one to go back to.
yeah, I was gonna say like for kids, yeah, it is definitely one either to have your kid play or to show them and kind of get them hooked on the magic of video games. Not that that's going to be too hard to do, but Ratchet and Clank. Last thing I'll say about it is before I even messed with the Stellar Blade photo mode, I noticed there was a photo mode in Ratchet and Clank, and so I played around with that. Not nearly as much, just a little bit, but just to kind of see what was there. And I was like, oh, okay, and yeah, you can make some pretty cool photos. Um, it's a pretty it's fun all around. But yeah, it's good.
All right. All right then. I'm gonna go with what I've been watching. So I'm playing a little catch up on my end. I've so the third season of ReZero anime has been uh under full swing. It's been getting dubbed in English, and I realized I'm like I only watched season one, and I'm like I liked season one. Showed it to my wife, rewatched season one with her, and then kind of just dropped off because it was a little while between when the movie came out, but also it's like I'm like I remember something weird happening, and I couldn't remember why. I'm like, did they do the weird thing where they remade it or something? Like because it was such a long like in between or something. I'm like I could have sworn they remade it, and then I had to look it up and like yeah, they came out with like a director's cut.
Yeah.
Um, and so the director's cut, like, pretty much doesn't do a lot of difference. They merge like two episodes into one kind of deal, and they change the ending of the final episode a little bit. But as a whole, it's not a big difference. And I'm like, all right, cool. I don't actually have to go back and do any homework. So on that note, I jumped into the movie, which was like the next step, and it was like an hour and 16 minutes, and it provides you nothing. Like it's okay, I shouldn't say that. So it's so for anyone, all right, so real quick, ReZero breakdown. Uh it's an isekai. All right, I was gonna say stop me if you heard this before. Uh so dude walks out of a conveni,
Stop.
and next thing he knows he's in a whole new world
Stop.
where at first you're like it's funny because he's like he realizes it real quick and he's like, "Cool, that means I have magic."
Stop.
And then he tries to do a spell or something. Uh, but yeah, dude, it's the big gimmick in this one is essentially he dies and he gets to rewind. He gets to do the whole rewinding time and reliving his moments. A la Groundhog's Day or All You Need Is Kill, or was it Edge of Tomorrow was the US name of it. Um, so yeah, it's all right. Like you can get down with that kind of mindset. Um, and season one is good, though there is like a weird like I don't know two like one third into the series. There's a weird dip in quality in the main character's attitude kind of deal.
Okay.
You're like he starts to act a certain way, and you're like, oh, you're kind of irritating. And if you just quickly watch those like 3 or 4 episodes like back to back, you're like, okay, I'm done with it. Like you made it through, and then it gets better, and it just kind of starts ramping up, and it's the quality is solid. It does one of the things I really like in an anime where kind of like was it Mushoku Tensei, the where it's the ending of the instead of having just a normal anime ending where you have the credits roll and some sort of just normal cutscene. They will often play. They'll have the actual episode continue to go on, and they'll be rolling credits over actual animation. So they're giving you just that much more time to watch.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that with ReZero. Uh, and some of the endings are just really good. Like, it's kind of neat to see what kind of weird things this guy has to go through. He does meet some really annoying character, like enemy type, like later on, and but it's fascinating. I mean, so this is obviously the one with Rem and Rom, the two maids that you see everywhere poster boarded as a blue and a pink haired mate, twin maids.
Yeah.
Um, so that's probably their most famous, like, of anything. Um, so the movie itself takes place with the backstory of the main heroine, and it's you don't realize until season two that it's kind of pointless. um, so like you're watching it and you're like, okay, this is neat filler, but it doesn't really provide a lot of depth. It just kind of feels a little shallow. It's like there's not Yeah, there's just not there's just it's just there. It's just kinda like, "Yeah, okay, this is what happened. This is a little bit of the past, but there's something that happened beforehand, even further back, that they're kind of alluding to, but they don't ever fulfill on that." And then by the time you get season 2, they finally give you that further back past, which is way more important than the movie was. The movie didn't actually provide anything of substance.
Yes.
So I was like, so you can just skip the movie and be okay. Like, that's how it is,
Wow.
essentially. If you're watching season 2, you'll get the backstory you need from that. 'Cause and I'm like, "Wow, that was," I mean, it's better than having a recap episode, but it's not by a lot. But luckily, it's not like a hour and a half, 2-hour epic, but it's still, like, an hour 15, so maybe, like, with credits, you're looking at, what, an hour 5? Um yeah. All right. So disappointed in the movie, but not the worst thing I've seen recently, especially with anime movies. Uh, season two is rolling around, and I'm kind of liking season two, but the main character, like this whole development. So season two is done up in part one and two. Part one is like 13 episodes. Part two is 12 episodes. Um, so man, the main character sucks. I'm starting to really get irritated by the main character. He's like an Aaron Yeager kind of like
Yeah.
jerk off.
Yeah, I mean it's like it's the two maids that are like the ones you see in all of the fan art and what people talk about and stuff like that and write stuff about. So I don't know, like I've never understood why people like this show. I've never watched it, but people love it. It seems like another dang one of those, isekai animes. Um, it's always been flabbergasting to me, but I'm glad that you're
Okay. Well, mind you, season one, man, Ramu is waifu of the year, of the decade. I mean,
okay.
she so and they show Rom more in season two. It's the best way for me to put that, without spoiling anything for anyone.
Okay.
And it's the thing is, it's just the main character. How do I say this? I feel like they try to write him to be the most relatable to shut-ins that like the stereotype of a Japanese shut-in, the hikikomori, like possible or something like that. Because coming from us, people who've seen things like Groundhog's Day and stuff, or like Edge of Tomorrow,
Mm.
being like, all right, you know what you got to do, so you do it, and you're willing to reset a bunch. Um, and you deal with it and move on. But like he just becomes a crying sack of crap,
Mm.
uh, and like he's so off the wall emotional in season two, which is kind of the annoying part. Like he has this whole little segment where like you find all right, slight spoiler. You find out like a lot of his issues being like a shut in and stuff is, his daddy issues for being, like, he underperforms compared to his dad as far as, like, society, because everyone's like, his dad was so awesome, just totally, totally awesome, and then he was awesome, but everything was being compared to, like, well, that's expected from the son of
The awesome
blah, blah,
guy.
blah,
Yeah.
and so, it's just like, so that's where his development issues came from, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. He's just like, who cares? And it's just like, yeah, I don't know. He comes up with. I feel like everyone has to hold his hand, and they just kind of make him the because he can try really hard, and he'll show his guts, and like the Gambarimas in him, that he wins. He can just win over that his protagonist pheromones, I guess, or something. But like just every like the women like him, um, and it's just like he doesn't have to. It feels like he really doesn't have to try. He doesn't really earn it, and he's just a big whiny sack of crap who everyone else has to then physically go out of their way to support.
Mm,
Uh, and maybe I'm just old. I'm probably just old and jaded. Is that what it is? Probably. But
mm.
I feel like it's trying to connect to a younger audience who is more uncertain of themselves. But it's very much a. I feel like he's not overcoming a lot of it by himself, and he's just half assing a lot of stuff, and he's not really. I don't know. It's like he's not putting the proper effort into it until he needs to make the story go further. um,
Yeah. Like they
so
have a certain
so
number of
I
episodes
finished.
where he's just going to be stuck in this thing so they can milk that out of it, and then when they're ready for the episode count, or when the episode count is at a certain point, that's when they'll decide for him to do the thing he needs to do.
So all right, someone tells him to do something. They're like, hey, when you meet this person, tell them this phrase, this code word, this code sequence, and he's like, okay. He doesn't say it when he doesn't meet that person, and then he then proceeds to time loop a couple times, meets that person a couple times, and still doesn't say it. And then he meets the person again, who told, and then someone else says, make sure to say this. And I'm like, and then he's like, oh, I'm gonna do a different branching path. So it's just like, for most of these time loop stories, you end up going, you go one route, and then you found out hit a bad end. Then you usually go like, all right, let me follow the same route for the most part, but let me try to change the ending, and then you work your way backwards. But he's just like, no, no, instead of going left, I'm just gonna go right, like completely different. It's like, and then I learned like he doesn't. There's no rhyme or reason. He's just doing everything random, every time, and
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that people just can't really put up with, and I don't think artists always understand that, is characters can do characters can succeed by being stupid. That's funny and interesting, but characters can't fail by being just stupid. Like you can be afraid, or you can be weak, or you can be whatever, you can be selfish or whatever. But like when a character is just stupid, and that's why they don't progress the story or whatever, or get stuck. I think for most people, and especially for me, I can definitely say I'm just like, turn this off. I don't want to watch a stupid person try to figure out how to entertain me. Like it's just not fun to me. And
yeah.
you see it sometimes, and it's just one of those things that irritates me.
So season one's good though. I'll say season one, like it's a solid season. It ramps up very well, and like the climax of the season is really good. So I generally like season one. I only finished the 13 episodes that is season two, part one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so as a whole, I am disappointed in this. But I'm really hoping the payout comes in the second half because they've made a third season of this. So I'm
Yeah,
like, I'm really hopeful.
people like it. People like
you
it.
know,
I don't know.
uh, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that's like, like I said, right now I'm getting like I just got the backstory for the main heroine. I'm like, I just found out her backstory. I'm like, cool. Which once again made the whole movie pointless because like it's telling you the things that happen further back. It's more like mindless filler. It's a filler movie. So, like I said, if you watch season one, then go to season two. Yeah, like if you're bored, have the movie in the background. Um, and I will come back to this when I finally finish part two. Uh, but it was one of those like since I do like I said, I actually do like season one. ReZero is a solid like time loop kind of thing. but I just feel like he's not utilizing it to the potential like most people would in a time loop story. So and I'm actually really curious because I think maybe if you watch it, you have a different perspective, and maybe I'm just being too harsh. And because
Yeah.
generally I rate things way harder than you, and I find whatever like when I get annoyed by something, it like sticks with me like a like a
You
rock in my shoe.
you do have a harder time letting go of things that annoy you. Um,
So
uh,
I do like I kind of want you to watch it just so I can get like
well,
an outside opinion.
I've always been curious because of how much people seem to like it. It just hasn't been able to surface to the top of the long list of things that I should watch and want to watch. But
Yeah, I mean when you come across something that you're like B-rate Netflix movie or ReZero? Just go to ReZero. And then there you go.
it's okay.
Save yourself some B-movie hassle, and or if you're late at night and you don't want anything to commit to, do ReZero. And then if you end up watching a bunch of episodes, you'd be like, Joe, I hate you because I stayed awake from 2 a.m. to 6 and I had to go to work. I'm like, my bad. Okay, I'll apologize at that point. I'll buy you.
I
I'll get you a like energy drink
I
to your work.
have more control over my life than that. I'm not gonna. I
I don't know, man. You keep on telling me about these B-rate movies you keep on watching, so I'm like,
That's like on the
yeah.
weekend. And I think I don't know, for one of those times I was sick and I was just like, let me just watch the next episode or the next line of the Conjuring movies. Anyway,
All right. All right. That I just want to say my piece. Like I said, the movie was nothing special, and I am really hoping part two is better because I
probably
really want to like this series
it
again.
probably will be. The
Uh,
movie almost certainly was just a cash grab.
yeah. Well, once again, it was like it is better than a recap. That's one thing for sure. Um, the only time I'll recommend a movie, like a recap movie over a series is like maybe Gundam, the original Gundam. I'm like, that might be the best way to watch it's a long series and it's kind of hard to watch because it's for certain people because it's just so old. I'm like, dude, you might
Slow.
want to just take the abridged, watch the three movies, three to catch up on the original Gundam series, and you get the gist of the story. Good to go. The quality's a little bit nicer because it's done in movie format, and yeah, that's all right. Enough of that. What about you, sir? What have you been watching?
Speaking of B-rate movies, I watched a movie called The Watchers. Um, this is a movie by M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, I think. I think it's like his older daughter or whatever. Um, so anyway, so
Was it the
this
twist? He was directing it the entire
he was
time?
directing it the entire
Uh,
time. Um, so this movie is it is a movie about a girl that is in Ireland, and weird things happen, and she ends up in the woods, in basically like this concrete building with a glass. With one glass wall, and if you watch the trailer for it, it's all in there. All this is in there, so it's not really a spoiler. And there are creatures or whatever that watch the people. There's a few other people who are trapped in there with her that watch the people, and there are certain rules, and they're supposed to never turn their back on the glass and stuff like that. Um, and so that's probably all I could really say before I start getting into spoilers. Um, it's not a bad movie, I don't think. It's not anything that you should go out of your way to watch. I don't think it does anything that's really dumb. There's probably one sort of scene toward the end where I was like, yeah, that was probably a dumb thing to do, dude. But overall, it was it was all right. Not really anything to write home about, but it was okay. Um, the thing that I do want to say about this movie is that this movie feels like like if it was anybody else, um, besides somebody with the last name Shyamalan, if it was anybody else, it would have been on Netflix, and it would have been worse. It would have been just very cookie cutter, like they try to make their movies. But instead, because it was not a Netflix movie, because they brought it to a theater, it has kind of it has sets that were made on location. It was filmed on location in parts. At least I'm pretty sure that was an Irish forest. They go around. They do a little bit more here and there. You can just tell that it's pumped up a little bit. There's like when you're watching it, you're like, this looks nice. This feels nice. This feels like a capital F film or a capital M movie, if you will. And so I think that if it was on Netflix, it would have been a lot worse, and it would have been completely boring. Instead, it was pretty all right. If you have,
So it had a proper budget, as you're saying, you know.
yeah, it had a proper budget. It had a proper budget. So if you're bored on like a night when you need a movie to watch or something like that, you could watch The Watchers and not hate yourself. At least not any more than you were already going to. So anyway, so it was okay, but I also
Well, I looked into it. I'm like, okay, so 'cause I hadn't heard anything about this, and so I'm like, oh, Dakota Fanning's still making movies. That's cool.
yeah,
I feel like I haven't heard of that name forever. Um,
yeah,
and
she's
then I was just like, looking at it. Apparently it was a $30 million budget. Box office was 33 million.
they
So
definitely did not make
uh,
their money back because
eh,
because the budget is always one thing, and then the media, the advertising, marketing is always almost that again. So it was the actual true budget is probably like 58, 55 million, and so yeah,
it
yeah.
it seems to be getting like mid like 5 out of 10s across the board on a lot of things. It's Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 32, but the fans gave it a 51. So
Yeah,
uh,
that on that one, I think that's probably the truer score. Um, you're not really going to, like I said, it's not anything to write home about. Um, but it
but there
is,
are worse things you can watch,
but
like a recap episode for anime.
like a recap episode for anime or Ray Zero, the Frozen Bond. Um,
I would honestly say that's probably equally as good as this. Probably better because it's shorter.
yeah, but it's only like 15 minutes shorter. So, um,
Is it really only an hour and a half
I
long for
think it's
this
probably
movie?
90 minutes. Yeah, I think. Anyway, so yeah, it's not it's not really gonna blow you away or anything like that. But it's just nice to watch something and be like, somebody tried here. Somebody's not just trying to get my money purely. They're like for the least amount of money possible. They're trying to get my money, but make a little bit of art, a little bit. Anyway, so enough about that. I finished another audiobook, a short one, that I think I can recommend. Science fiction. Um, the name of the series is The Murderbot Diaries. Um, and the first in this series is called All Systems Red, I believe. Um, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's short and sweet. It's only like 3 hours um, in the audiobook format. Uh, the coolest thing about it though is that it is pretty good and it is free. You can download it for free on Audible. Um, somebody pointed this in my direction and said, "Hey, it's pretty good and it's free." And I was like, "Well, if it's pretty good and it's free, I'll try it." And it is. It was all right. Very short, succinct story. Um, things are kind of explained. There's a little bit of a mystery. There's some action. There's some this. There's some that, and it ends up, and I can see where it will go. It will go on from there, and there'll be kind of more um, of these things that are that the story is going to continue, and it piqued my interest at least to maybe continue on from there. But I really liked it. It's basically about people on a spaceship, a few people on a small ship. Think like Alien, and one of them is a cyborg android, has some human components, but is basically an android, um, and sort of the things that they have to do to kind of preserve themselves. So yeah, the book, if you haven't figured it out, is written from the perspective of the android, the murder bot, and kind of what they're
I'll
going
say it
through.
has to be a cyborg, right? Because if it's not a cyborg, then like
It'd be a
you always
cyborg,
write
yeah.
in the Asimov laws, right? So robotics can't harm people. Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
can't harm yourself, can't harm people.
I mean, it is basically a cyborg. They might actually say, because they have a different word for it, I think, like replicant or whatever.
Murderbot.
What? It's
Yeah,
murderbot.
I
Yeah.
said murderbot. It's like I don't know why this murderbot turned on us. Who would have thought?
Yeah. So it's told from their perspective, and it's just good. It's good. It's definitely worth 3 hours if you're into science fiction. So yeah.
Dude, yeah, 3 hours, man. That's a YouTube documentary there. So for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Anyway, it's pretty good.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, according to Goodreads, it's a 4.1 out of 5, which is pretty solid. Um, UC San Diego Bookstore gives it a 5 out of 5. I have no idea who they are other than UC San Diego. So,
Okay.
but yes. All right. Well, thank you, Nick. And what are the words of wisdom you have for all the people out there?
Make sure that you put the possum in the raccoon and then the raccoon in the pig.
All right. And what do you use to deep fry them in?
I use a Black and Decker air fryer. They make big giant air fryers, and I do leave it open and throw some corn oil in there, and it creates this weird like tornado of of oil around the pigrassum, and it's um it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to watch.
All right. Well, if you made it to the end, we really appreciate it. Hope everyone in the U.S. has a good Turkey Day, and if you're not in the U.S., well, I hope you have yourself a good feast of food. Uh,
Yeah, hope you find some
just
food.
because.
Hope you find some food somewhere.
So hope you don't have to reconfigure some roadkill there. All right. This is ADP episode 102. Until next time, y'all take it easy.
Bye.